This video is more important than you realize, and I'll tell you why. For the most part, when it comes to the things in life, you like to take care of yourself. You like to learn how to take care of this thing, and then you take care of it. And this gives you a feeling of freedom, because you're the one in control, right? When it comes to your health, all of that is entrusted to other people. That's how it works in modern society. If you have a health problem, you're not allowed to speak about it, you're not allowed to analyze it, you're discouraged from doing so, because there's an authority called the doctor that needs to check it. You see, your fate is decided by whether this doctor is competent or not, whether he's influenced by financial incentives or not, under what system he works. It's a luck-based game, and therefore every single citizen, every single person who lives in modern society shouldn't just be reliant on an authority that tells them that no, you can't take care of yourself, only listen to me. What I say is what you do, even if it works or not. And so listening to this authority that is corrupt isn't a good idea. It's down to a luck-based game. Depending on the human being that's in front of you, you're going to get different outcomes. And for the most part, look at how sick society is. Look at what's being done in hospitals. Look at the problems children are encountering. Look at how many pills old people are taking. You need to learn how to take care of yourself. And knowing about body signals is a good idea. You're not going to diagnose yourself because that's illegal. But what you're going to do is you're going to understand how your body works and what's the problem, and then what to do about it. You don't need a doctor to do that. There are many people within the health space that I operate in that they learn about something and then they implement it, and suddenly their problems went away. Why? Because they were able to put the puzzle together. In the process, these people, these health-conscious people, have learned how to take care of themselves. And to do this, you need to be able to read your own body. You need to know how the body works. You need to know how it works and what influences it. And thus, in this video, we're going to go through body signals so that you can understand your body better and so that you'll know what to do whenever you encounter one of these signals. Or if you're dealing with one of those signals, you'll immediately know what to do. Something we're going to answer in this video is, if you have gas in your stomach, what does that mean? And what's the difference between having gas in your stomach and having gas in your large intestine? What's the difference there? Both of these are signals, but they're a bit different, and we can prevent them if we know how they arise. We begin with nutrition signals, and we're going to look at cravings first. So what is a craving? Have you ever noticed that sometimes you eat a food and it's really tasty, but then after eating it for a while it's not tasty anymore? So when I was younger, I used to have periods where I used to eat something for a little while, and then I used to stop eating it. And my parents would always say, oh, you always trick us into buying a bunch of this thing and then you stop eating it. Well, this is how the body works. Sometimes your body is in need of something, and so you eat a lot of it. And suddenly it's not in need of this thing anymore, and you're in need of some other thing. And so your body stores information about all the foods you eat, and so it can tell you what foods you need through craving. At some point, a few years ago, I really craved tomatoes. And so when I ate tomatoes, they were the most delicious fruit I had ever tasted. I'm going to add this in to broaden your understanding. You see, if you crave meat, that doesn't mean that you need iron. And if you crave pickles, that doesn't mean that you need salt. You need a specific compound within these foods. And there are thousands upon thousands of compounds within each of these foods. You might be craving taurine or carnitine or carnosine, special amino acids only found in meat. And I'm adding this in to counteract the fact that vegans like to say, if you crave meat, you probably need iron, so take an iron supplement. That's not how it works. Meat is far more complicated than that. And of course, your body stores the information about the meat if you've ever eaten meat. So it knows that it can make you crave this certain food. It will give you the mental image of it. Muscle loss is a very important signal, and you need to stop it as soon as possible. You usually see it by, your weight going down and you becoming very skinny and you feeling weaker. Okay, but primarily it is a signal that you see on the body. It's caused by two things. Either you're not moving as much, and so your body says, we need to scale down the body, we need to remove the muscle, because again, muscles are costly. If your army is costly, you scale it down, and now it doesn't cost as much. Or it's caused by not eating enough protein. And you might say, okay, but where's the science about that? How do you know that if you eat this much protein, you'll get muscle loss? And how do you know that if you eat a lot of protein, you'll have bigger muscles? Look at fruitarians, and then look at raw meat eaters. Look at anyone who has been a vegan and then goes to an animal-based diet that's filled with meat. I don't lose muscle, and currently I don't even do calisthenics, I only do boxing, and I've maintained the muscle that I had from my gym period until now. With fruitarians, however, they don't eat a lot of protein, they don't eat a lot of fat, and those two go together, of course, for very certain reasons. And what happens to them is they become skinny and they lose muscle. And this is never a good sign because, again, a healthy organism has muscle. This is a sign of being able to defend yourself, of being competent in nature, of being a good, strong organism. And so again, if you're very skinny and you feel like you're not developing correctly or you're not gaining weight, for you to build muscles, you need protein. You don't just need to break them down, you need to get enough food. And your body will build them automatically because no one's supposed to be very, very skinny. You're supposed to have a good base level of muscle. This one might seem obvious, but what about weight loss? You see, weight loss is just your body not getting enough resources, so it uses itself to maintain other things. So there are things in your body that are more important than other things. Your liver is more important than the fat in your body. Your brain is more important than the muscle. So what happens is, when you don't eat, is it takes the muscle and the fat and it breaks it down to feed the organs. It breaks down the lesser important things, which are still important, and then it gives it to the more important stuff. But weight loss is not just caused by you eating too little food. You see, there are many things within the chain. There's you eating the food, there's the stomach breaking it down, there's the intestines. Anywhere within the chain, if anything goes wrong, your nutrients will not be delivered to the cells in a good enough manner. This could even be due to you having a clogged up lymphatic system. That could be a reason as to why you're losing weight. If you're skinny and you can't gain weight, or you're rapidly losing weight for some reason, this is going to be my recommendation. If the problem is mental, if you just can't eat, then again, try to find some food that you can eat, drink cream, fix the problem mentally, okay? Try to address this. If the problem is in your digestive system, then you have to repair the damage. And in the meantime, if you're reacting badly to a bunch of foods, then you need to switch to foods that your body can handle. So things that are very easily digested, fermented foods, raw eggs, raw fermented milk, things with lots of bacteria, things that are fermented. That's going to be your best bet because these foods are already broken down. They've been pre-digested in the jar that you fermented them in, and so when they reach your stomach, a lot of the job has already been done. If the problem is in your delivery system, like the blood or the lymphatic system, then food is going to help and detoxification is going to help, because usually the problem is pollution. You've got too much pollution in your body, and so the nutrients that are delivered to the cells aren't really going to build tissue. They're going to handle the stuff that's already happening, the damage that's being caused by the pollution. So again, keep eating, keep trying to get the pollution out, and eventually you'll gain weight. There's something called rabbit starvation, and this occurs because if you eat a bunch of rabbits, they don't have any fat on them. They barely have any fat on them, so you won't be consuming a lot of fat. If you're solely surviving off of rabbits, you're going to get rabbit starvation. And rabbit starvation is when you're not eating enough dietary fat. So what does it mean to crave fat? Well, it means that you're not eating enough fat. And this is a very important signal, because whenever you're craving fat, you should be eating fat. And if there's a specific food in mind, like butter or olive oil or raw bone marrow, raw beef fat, you know, the fat on the side of the ribeye, if there's a specific food in mind, then that's the food that you should eat. That's the fat that you should eat, because all fats have different fatty acid ratios. Coconut oil is very different from beef tallow, and beef tallow is very different from chicken fat. And so, depending on what it is you're craving, that's what you should eat. Now, I stumble upon this one very often. What if you have a hard time eating fat? This means that your liver is dysfunctional. You see, your body is able to calculate how much fat you should eat based on the amount of bile it can produce and the bile it can excrete. If you're eating too much fat, your body won't be able to digest the fat, and it knows if it's going to be able to digest the fat or not, based on the amount of fat that is in your mouth. It knows it already from here. See how intelligent it is? And so, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to eat more fat. It's going to be not appealing, because during that meal you've reached your fat satiety, right? If this happens very quickly, that means that your liver is very weak. Why? Because the liver produces bile. And if your liver can't produce bile because it's preoccupied with a bunch of other things, or it's very damaged, then obviously your liver is weak. Obviously it's going to have a hard time creating bile, and thus you won't be able to eat a lot of fat because you can't handle it. How about having a low appetite? This is usually caused because your digestive system is damaged, you can't create enough hydrochloric acid, you can't create enough bile, and your stomach doesn't want you to eat anything because it's just horrible. It can't do anything with it. It can, but it needs time to recover. In this case, you need to make the food more tasty and you need to make it more digestible. So that's why I would only eat raw foods and fermented foods, because again, your problem is that your digestive system is damaged and you don't really want to eat because it's horrible down there. So your body's saying only eat when we can handle it and only eat stuff that we can handle, and that's not going to be a lot. So what you do is, again, you eat raw foods and fermented foods because they're more easily digested. If you're very bad in the stomach, then raw eggs are your only option, and raw fermented milk. That's my recommendation. And then, just fermented stuff in general. Making the food more palatable is very easy. First of all, pick the foods that you like the most that are still within the categories I just described, and then add honey. Honey makes it sweet, and so it's much easier to eat. And, anyone can try this. What if you have the opposite problem? What if you have an insatiable appetite? You can't stop eating. Well, this problem is very easily solved. But first I want to look at Stephanie Buttermore, because she had the exact same problem, and the approach she took was completely wrong. Now, in the end, it worked out because her body stabilized, thankfully. But she was a bodybuilder who restricted her calories, and then suddenly she did a eating challenge, and she had so much fun eating 10,000 calories of junk food, so she decided that she would do that every day. But not to that extent, of course. She would just eat the stuff that she wants to eat, and that included a bunch of junk food. She calls this the all-in diet, and of course she will recommend it to people who are in the same position as her, because ultimately it did work for her in the end. Now here's the thing. This diet is stupid. Why? Because it doesn't look at the quality of the foods or what foods a person is eating. It looks at what they want to eat and the quantity of the food. It just tells people, eat whatever you want, and that's it. And of course, this will include a bunch of junk food because there are no restrictions. Appetite, as I learned from the channel, what I've learned, is mainly controlled through protein. It is mainly a protein-wanting response, a protein-wanting signal. And that's why protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It's the most important macronutrient. If you just eat fat and carbohydrates, you can eat them for a very long time until you get full. While if you eat protein, you'll get full much faster, because it's not just about the volume of food in your stomach, it's about what it is that your body's detecting that you're eating. Appetite is also controlled through macronutrients. That's why if you were to eat liver, you can't eat a lot of it. You'll get full much quicker than if you were to eat muscle meat, and that's because your body's going to get a big dose of micronutrients, and it's going to say, we don't need more than this to sustain you. And of course you will need other stuff, but you'll get full very quickly if you're only eating liver. What Stephanie did is she didn't think about protein, she didn't think about fat, because fat, there's a fat satiety, and she didn't really hit that. What she did is she ate a bunch of junk food, which doesn't contain any nutrients, which doesn't contain any high quality fat, which doesn't contain any high quality protein. It's just junk food, it's empty calories. So of course she's going to be able to eat 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories of it every day, because it was a mental craving. The solution is super simple. All you do is you eat high quality whole foods that are very nutrient rich, and you eat protein. You base your diet off of fat and protein, and of course you can add in carbohydrates. I'm not opposed to that, but you have to understand that if you have this insane appetite, your body wants micronutrients, it wants fat, and it wants protein. It's telling you, get these things, and I won't stop making you hungry until you get these things. And that's why some people can continue eating, because they're eating but they're not getting the stuff that the body wants. While if Stephanie Buttermore were to eat a steak and butter and liver and all of these nutrient-rich things, she would not eat the same amount of calories. Everything would be digested much more quickly, and she wouldn't have this insane appetite anymore. We move on to digestive signals. Now, what does it mean when you eat a meal and then it sits in your stomach for too long? You feel a little bit nauseous, you can't really move. It just sits like a rock in your stomach, and it feels like the feeling where you've eaten too much, but you haven't eaten too much. There's not too much in your stomach, but it's the same feeling sort of, but smaller. This means that you're not digesting the food very well, and this could be due to two reasons. Either the food itself is not something that is digested very easily and you shouldn't be eating it, or you're not producing enough hydrochloric acid and your digestive system is weak in general. So if you're not eating the right kind of food, then watch this video. However, if your problem has to do with your digestive system, then I recommend two things. Either you consume a digestive aid like papaya or pineapple, or even ginger juice or beet juice, which will help with hydrochloric acid production and enzymes, or you eat foods that are more easily digested for a while until that problem is resolved, like raw fermented milk, raw eggs. You can try raw meat, but even raw meat might be too much for some people. At the height of my IBS, I couldn't eat raw meat without feeling nauseous. Bloating is caused due to gas. If you're bloated in your stomach, you're going to burp. If you're bloated in your large intestine, you're going to fart. Now, what's the difference between the two and why do they occur? You get gas in your stomach when you swallow air. Whenever you swallow, you're going to swallow a little bit of air, if I'm not mistaken, and so you're going to burp. Burping is natural. If you were to consume something fermented or a fizzy drink and this thing has a lot of gas in it and you consume it, then you're going to burp because this thing is going to be continuously releasing gas within your digestive system, and so this gas is going to travel up the esophagus and ultimately it's going to be, let out by your mouth. This isn't something very bad unless you feel stomach pain. If there's too much gas in your stomach and it's being created due to some foods blending together for some reason, then you need to avoid that food. Okay, but most natural foods aren't going to have this effect. Now, if you've got bloating in your large intestine or your intestines in general, but in most cases it's going to occur in your large intestine, then you've got a problem. If you're farting too much, then you've got a problem. You're eating something that you shouldn't be eating. As an example, beans make people fart. They create gas. Now, in many cases, when I was younger, my body was able to handle everything. However, when I became a little older and I had accumulated digestive damage, I started to bloat. Okay, so the gas expanded my intestines and it really hurt my stomach, my lower stomach. And that's usually what vegans experience. They experience bloating in the large intestine. And this is really, really bad. And it means that you need to rapidly change your diet. Whatever food is causing the bloating, stop eating it immediately. Usually, this is going to be legumes. If I eat legumes, I suffer incredibly. My large intestine will blow up like a balloon. But I don't need to worry about that because I don't eat legumes. Usually a diet of fruits and animal foods devoid of vegetables and grains in some cases and legumes is not going to cause any bloat. You're going to be fine. And if you, again, want to include grains, then I would recommend things like white potatoes, white rice, because those generally don't cause any digestive discomfort. A signal you might get is that there's burning inside of your stomach, but not generalized burning, burning in one specific area. This is probably a stomach ulcer. A stomach ulcer is a wound in the stomach lining. What you have to do in this case is you need cabbage juice. Vitamin K heals wounds very well. If you have wounds that don't heal well, you're probably vitamin K deficient. The best thing I've found in this situation is to drink cabbage juice. Cabbage juice should heal any wounds you have in your stomach lining very well. Some of these things might not seem like signals, but they definitely are. As an example, if you try to shit and the shit is too big and it really hurts your asshole, then that's constipation. That's a signal, and that means that there's something that needs to be done. So I would look at a few factors if you've got constipation. The first one is, how is your large intestine doing? If you've got a damaged large intestine or you've got a lack of bacteria in your large intestine, well, that's the organ that's going to form the stool, right? If it doesn't have the capability of doing that because it's damaged or it lacks bacteria, then obviously the stool is going to come out in a weird way. To repair large intestinal damage, you don't have to do anything specific except supply the nutrients that your body needs. So your body needs to get something so that it can produce something, and what you need to give it is the things that it can use to produce large intestinal tissue. And you produce large intestinal tissue by eating protein and fat and nutrients, because these three things are what give you tissue. If your large intestinal bacterial environment is the problem, then you need to supply a bunch of bacteria into your digestive system. The best way that I've found to do this is through raw fermented milk, because it's very easily digested and it will also give you a bunch of nutrients, so it will aid in repairing the large intestine. If you've got a bad bacterial environment, you've probably also got damage, because to cause one you need to get the other two, most likely. However, your problem might be pretty simple. You might just need more fat in your diet. I've found that if you eat fat, your stool becomes more comfortable to get out of your butthole. And if you're not eating fat, if I don't eat enough fat, I get constipated. But I'm not talking about severe constipation, I'm just talking about the stool being much harder than it usually is. So again, if you have problems with constipation, increase the fat. If that didn't help, then do what I said before. The opposite signal is diarrhea. Diarrhea is a runny stool when it comes out like water. And this means that your body's saying whatever is within the digestive system shouldn't be here. It's doing more harm than good, so you want to get it out. That's exactly what it means. If you eat at a restaurant and you get diarrhea, your body's saying that although there might be something we could use within this food, we'd rather have it outside of the body. We don't want it here because it's creating so much damage that we want to use resources, we want to use water to push it out as fast as possible. And so if you think about it, diarrhea is a signal telling you that there's something within your digestive system that is in need of getting out. This doesn't have to be because you ate at a restaurant. This might be detoxification. It might be that your body has cleared up some area with a bunch of pollution and now it sends it to the intestines and it uses diarrhea to flush it out. So diarrhea is always detoxification. Detoxification from the garbage food at a restaurant or detoxification from anything that shouldn't be in your body. This is the part of the video that I think you'll find the most interesting. This is why you clicked. We're going to look at skin signals. So the first one is acne and boils and eczema and all of these skin conditions. What do they mean? Well, first of all, there's skin damage. That's the first thing you have to identify. There is skin damage. There is skin cell damage from something within the body, okay? The second thing is your body is choosing to do this. It's choosing to damage the skin because the thing that's damaging the skin shouldn't be inside of your body. Your skin ranks fairly low in the organ hierarchy, so your body has a choice. It could put whatever is within the body that shouldn't be there, within the liver, the brain, the heart, the skin, the fat. Obviously, if you were the body's brain and you were making these decisions, you wouldn't put mercury in your brain. You would put it in the subcutaneous fat because it would do much less damage within the subcutaneous fat, the fat under the skin. The signal means that I'd rather have the thing that's toxic within the body pushed out of the skin while damaging the skin cells than to have it within the body. Okay, so because your body's pushing something out from the skin, this thing is damaging the skin, but it's also exiting. Okay, so your body's detoxifying it, because again, the biggest detoxifier in your body is the skin. Everything should go out of your skin. Sometimes things are a little bit too toxic. So what happens is you get eczema, you get acne, you get boils, because the thing has to be transported out of the skin in this way. If it's a boil, then there's a lot to transport. If it's acne, then there's a little bit to transport. If it's eczema, then the thing itself is very different. It's not supposed to be dissolved in fat. It's sort of coming out, but it's damaging the skin at the same time. It's obvious that acne and boils are something being pushed out because you can visibly see the thing being pushed out. There's fluid within this pimple. But when it comes to eczema, how can I be so sure that it's just skin damage in a different form? Well, because if you go into the cold, you're going to damage your skin, right? Your skin cells are going to die because they're not in an optimal environment. And when do people get the most eczema? People who are prone to eczema. They get it in the winter. Why? Because there's skin damage. So eczema is just skin damage. What does it mean to have pasty pale skin? Because again, this might not be a skin condition officially established by the medical community, but I call it a skin condition because it definitely is, and it's definitely a sign that you should look out for. This doesn't have to do with being white, with your ethnicity, with your race, with your genes that control how your skin inherently looks. What I'm talking about is the result of being unhealthy and the result of being healthy. How the skin changes, how the vibrancy of it changes. My sister's skin is darker than my skin, genetically, but she's got pasty pale skin because she's unhealthy. She doesn't get any sun exposure and her diet is not very nutrient dense. She just eats normal stuff. What I'm talking about has to do with the vibrancy of the skin. And so if you've got very pasty and pale skin, that means you're nutrient deficient. You know those people who sit inside a lot and play a bunch of video games? They're usually pasty and pale because they don't get any sun exposure and usually their dietary habits are not very good. While the people who are outside a lot, they will have vibrant skin. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. Vibrancy of the skin and healthiness of the skin, the general complexion, is very easy to detect for any human being, even babies. If you're pasty and pale, you need to do two things. First, get sun exposure. Usually pale skin is a sign of vitamin D deficiency, but it's also general nutrient deficiency. So what you need to do is you need to eat a bunch of animal products because the solution is to drastically increase the amount of nutrients that you consume. And then your skin will transform. Trust me, it happens to everyone I've seen. The next 3 signals are my favorites because I like to check them on everyone. If you have puffiness under the eyes, so this area goes out, there's a big puff coming out, you usually see this with older people, but again, some older people might not have this, then you probably have kidney damage, you have kidney disease of some sort. And if you don't have kidney disease, then you haven't been diagnosed yet. There's something going on with your kidneys. The next one is if it's dark under your eyes, and not just dark, I mean it's deep, and you know, it doesn't look right. You might think, doesn't dark eye circles indicate that you have sleep problems, that you're not sleeping? That is correct, but if they're persistent, even if you're sleeping well, then it indicates that there's something going on with your liver. But again, if you sleep badly a few nights and you've got dark eye circles, then you don't have to worry about your liver. This is just if it's persistent and if it's dark. Usually you see a pronounced, you know, circle here if you haven't slept well. But if it's very dark under the eye, then of course your liver is at stake. 2 other ones that are related to the heart are if you have a very red complexion, you know, those older people, some rich guys that have a very red face. That indicates that not only do you have high blood pressure, you also have heart disease. And if you have very deep forehead wrinkles, that could be an indicator that you have heart disease. Now we get to nervous system signals, and to these we also have mental states, because practically they're very connected. You see, whatever it is that your body is experiencing and whatever it is you feel, that's the same thing. If your body is very damaged, you'll feel that mentally. If your body is very healthy, you'll also feel that mentally. So usually healthy people who take care of themselves, they'll be very calm and happy people, while people who do a bunch of drugs and, you know, do hedonistic, degenerate stuff that makes them unhealthy, they need to continue doing those things, because if they don't, well, their body's already damaged. So if they experience life in their default state, in their default unhealthy body, it won't feel very good. What if you're getting the sad signal all the time and you don't know why you're sad? There's no apparent reason as to why you're sad, but you're sad. And again, you don't know why. This is basically depression. Now, depression could be caused by a few things. You could be the healthiest person in the world, but you might have the worst mental emotional patterns ever, and I'm guessing you won't be pretty healthy after that if we suddenly gave you those mental emotional patterns, because you couldn't become the healthiest person in the world if you had those mental emotional patterns for various reasons. If there's no apparent mental activity or emotional activity that you're constantly feeding and you're still depressed, then this is probably just nutrition related, health related in general. First, you've got pollution. Pollution shouldn't be in your body, it kills cells. If your cells are dying rapidly, then your body will obviously be working, trying to fix everything, and you'll feel stressed out. This will usually lead to anxiety, but again, anxiety might be making you depressed. But again, pollution in the nervous system, more likely to cause anxiety. Depression, on the other hand, is usually caused by having a bad digestive system. There's a study that I showed a long time ago on my channel, which showed that people who are depressed are more likely to have digestive issues, or it might have been the other way around. This is actually pretty easy to fix. You see, usually the problem is just bacteria and damage in the digestive system. You just need to fix those two, and you do that by eating a nutrient-rich diet that is devoid of processed food. You've just got a bunch of whole foods that really work well for you and don't cause any digestive discomfort, while giving you very good effects. You feel very good after eating them. If you just do that for a few months, then all your problems will be gone. Again, we're talking about depression that isn't caused by mental emotional patterns. But again, if you have both, and usually people have a mix of both, then address both by using the tools I've given you. And if you want a step-by-step system to really clean up your digestive system, then watch this video over here. Now, what if you have extreme restlessness and anxiety? You can't stop thinking, and this might even carry over to your sleep. What should you do? There are a few causes. You might be inactive. It might just be that. You might need to use up the cortisol and adrenaline that your body naturally produces. And since you're sitting there inside of your home, needing a walk, but not getting the walk like a dog, you're getting this pent-up energy and you feel really bad, just like a dog would if you wouldn't walk it. You need to go out and do some exercise until you feel calm. I'm not talking about going for a very, very, very long run and messing up your cardiovascular system from the damage. I'm talking about doing moderate exercise until you feel good every single day or whenever this situation comes up. Now, if it isn't that, then you've just got nervous system damage from pollution. Usually when someone's very anxious and restless and they feel agitated all the time, usually this is due to nervous system damage from pollution. So what you need to do is you really need to have a clean diet, you really need to avoid pollution, and you need to have some kind of detoxification regimen. Do you realize how many unspeakable, horrific toxins come out of your skin whenever you're in the sauna? That sweat you see on your skin is filled to the brim with toxic stuff. And so imagine what would happen if you spent a few minutes in the sauna every day. How much less crap would you have in your body and how much better would you feel? Now, some people, they need to focus on other things. But if you've got this problem where pollution is actually frying your nervous system, because you have so much pollution that you can feel the effects so much because your body can't handle everything, then you really need to get that pollution out first. The last one is my favorite because this is the one I talk with people about the most because everyone seems to suffer from it. What does it mean to have pain in your head that doesn't seem to go away and doesn't seem to have any apparent cause, except for if it has a cause? Of course, if eating junk food or sitting on your laptop or sitting on your phone is causing a headache, then obviously stop doing those things or minimize them or try to, take breaks. Do something that addresses those things because obviously those things are causing the headaches. But if you're just having a headache out of the blue, then the signal means that your brain is doing something important, your head in general, but usually your brain is doing something important. When you get a headache, the meninges and the blood vessels that are related to the brain, and the meninges are the layers between the skull and the brain, that you can feel pain in, but you can't feel pain in your brain, of course. That's a known scientific fact. That's not something I'm pulling out of my ass. Those are being engorged with blood. The blood pressure there is increasing, and it seems as though an increase in blood flow is needed for whatever purpose. Now, if something is being transported from the brain or to the brain, then obviously this needs to happen. You need an increase in blood flow. And what's happening when you get a headache is your brain is doing something important. It's trying to eliminate something that shouldn't be there. This could be dead cells or this could be pollution. And that's why people who eat a bad diet, people who take a bunch of medication, people who are unhealthy in general, who have unhealthy brains, will get headaches because their brain needs to clear out a bunch of stuff far more often than a healthy person needs. My brain can keep up with me. Because again, if it works, if the brain just works, it will create things, metabolites that need to be cleared out. But my brain can do that during my sleep. If you're very unhealthy and you're not taking care of yourself, then the brain damage will be so high that your brain will need to do those things during the day. And so because your brain is preoccupied with doing something else, then it will tell you that, okay, there's something going on, you need to rest. And this, of course, results in the pain from the headache. There's a purpose behind every single pain that you feel. And everything is designed, again, for your sake. Whatever pain or thing you experience, your body is doing something very, very important. And this is the most important principle to take away from this video. The medical establishment might say that, well, this is unnecessary and we can give pills to remove this and this process isn't important, and so the pill itself will stop the process to remove the symptoms. But the symptom itself is the thing that's preventing you from getting a lot more damage. And if you want to address the symptom, then you need to fix the problem that makes it so that your body needs to go through that process that it's going through in the first place. If you like the way I think, if you feel like my explanations are helpful to you somehow, then I have a PDF called the 10 Dietary Rules. It's completely free. It tells you about the 10 dietary rules that any diet should follow. Get it if you're interested in nutrition, which you probably are if you're clicking on videos like these. I also have a book called The 6 Health Commandments. It teaches you about what health actually is, so whatever it is that you're thinking about, is it like this or is it like that? Is this healthy or is that healthy? Once you read that book, you can answer any one of those questions. You'll master health immediately. Trust me, because you'll know what health actually is, and so any decision, anything you analyze will be very clear to you. With that said, go and achieve excellent health. I know you can do it.